Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mama Ndembojwana, and in today's video we will be continuing from where we left off. So the last video we spoke about Papa Kisolokile's trial, and that's where we ended off. So while Papa Kimbangu's trial was taking place, something worthy to mention happened in the Iceville prison. So Papa Kimbangu's wife and her 3 children were severely detained. They were subjected to humiliation, hunger, and offense by the administrators Jules van der Reulen, Morel, and Meyer de Rossi, and also the Belgian officials of the colonial administrators. Mama Mulu went through a lot of humiliation, a lot of hunger, and a lot of abuse in the hands of those people. Mama Mulu Marie was a wife of unshaken faith. Her life was a model of Christian piety. From praying, she drew strength that sustained her before the court. She never surrendered. 5th of October 1921, Mama Mulu contracted a very high fever caused by a huge boil that developed underneath one of her armpits. And the doctor assigned to her prison was taken to her cell, which was in a very bad condition. They did not have any beds. Mama Mulu and her children slept on the floor. It was really bad, very bad condition. No human being can be placed or survive in a place like that. It was really sad. So the doctor that was assigned to her went to visit her at her cell. The doctor who went to examine her caught her in prayers with her 3 children. So they were praying. She was praying. While he was pretending to examine her, he shouted, "Simon Kimbangu's wife cannot be healed by the prophet himself." So he pretended to check the boil and then let go. And then he said again. And then he said, "It would be better for you to bring in the miracle worker to heal this. He who healed thousands of patients cannot abandon his wife in such a state." So these were the words that came out from this doctor. So after the interpreter explained to Mama Mulu the blasphemous words of this doctor, Mama Mulu contented herself. She kept calm because she was a very prayerful woman. She kept calm as the interpreter explained to her what this doctor just said. She said, "Go in peace. I know that the Lord will not abandon my husband, nor myself and my children, or anyone that believes in him." These were Mama Mulu's words, and then the doctor left without giving any solution to her. So he left, and when he left, something happened. Something happened. Something big happened. Mama Mulu Marie prayed, and Papa Kimbangu appeared before her. He touched the boil and healed her, and the fever left her immediately. Who knows how or by whom, but the doctor was informed Mama Mulu was doing well again. So he returned to the prison and found that the boil had mysteriously disappeared. Disorientated and in shock, he said to himself, "Can it be that we are mistaken about Kimbangu? Maybe he is really a servant of God." And without saying anything more, he took his way and left. About half an hour from his departure, Administrator van der Reulen arrived at Mama Mulu's prison, and his only instruction was to order soldiers who accompanied him to beat Mama Mulu. So he ordered the soldiers to beat Mama Mulu up. Mulu did not complain because this type of treatment was a part of her daily lot of suffering, pain, and humiliation. So Mama Mulu and her children really suffered. But Mama Mulu, she was such a strong woman, a woman of faith. She had so much faith in Papa Kimbangu that she never once gave up. She never once gave up. She always believed that one day God would intervene for her and her children, and she always knew that God was never going to leave them. What a faith. Mama Mwelo is very, very much respected in the Kimbangu's church. She is the mother of all nations. She is the mother of all nations, and in the Kimbangu's church, we really put her on a high pedestal because of the faith that she had, and also because of the work that she conducted within the church. I'm not going to go too deep into Mama Mwelu's stories, but we will touch up on it in the future video, because there's so much to speak on Mama Mwelu, so much to speak. So it was Papa Simon Kimbangu's sentence, because remember the session was closed after Papa Kisorokele's trial. They closed the session for some time, and then now it resumed. Public prosecutor requested forced labor in perpetuity for Papa Simon Kimbangu and his collaborators, sentences ranging from 2 to 20 years in prison for the other defendants. This is what the prosecutor suggested, but something else happened, okay? Commander De Rossi, when he delivered the verdict, went beyond the sentences requested by the public ministry. So Mr. Morel jumped. He sentenced Papa Simon Kimbangu to death and his apostles to life in prison. Other co-defendants of Papa Simon Kimbangu received sentences from 2 to 10 years in prison. Papa Simon Kimbangu and his disciples were charged with interference with security of the state and public tranquility. The Protestant missionary demanded execution of Papa Simon Kimbangu. The Catholic clergy lent a hand to all those who wished Papa Simon Kimbangu's death, and the massive deportations of all Kimbangis. It was serious. It was really serious. Papa Simon Kimbangu had a camp of enemies waiting for him to disappear. As soon as the judgment was pronounced, the most passionate of them in the crowd suggested that Papa Simon Kimbangu should be shot the very next day. Imagine. Simon Kimbangu should be shot in the presence of the Governor General of the Belgium Congo, Lippens. There was even a band of fanatics who, without any order, went into the woods to prepare a cross on which Papa Simon Kimbangu was to be crucified. The small truck that carried the blasphemous cross was thrown off track. Black soldiers, commanded by Belgian officers, were pulling it towards the top of the hill. And something happened. While they were pulling it on top of the hill, the cross broke, and some soldiers and Belgian officers suffered severe fractures. So this happened, okay? They went to get a cross so that Papa Simon Kimbangu could be crucified on that cross. What did Papa Simon Kimbangu do to deserve such hate? What did he do to deserve such hate? He did nothing. Nothing besides preaching the word of God, preaching to the people of Congo liberation, opening their minds. This incident took place on the 3rd of October, just before 5 p.m. The public prosecutor did not share the joy of the world population. So let's keep in mind, while this trial was taking place, there were many Europeans at the War Council. They were all rejoicing. They were happy. They were all relieved that Papa Simon Kimbangu was sentenced to death row. But Mr. Dupuis, the public prosecutor, he did not share any joy in the sentence that was given by Morale. As soon as the verdict was reached, he asked to speak. He was offended the fact that the judge had announced sentences beyond those called by the prosecution. So he made it known that he was not happy, and so he was introducing a pardon petition on the behalf of Papa Simon Kimbangu. Like, really, it's crazy. Papa Simon Kimbangu's trial was really crazy. So on Tuesday, 4th of October 1921, Reverend Jennings, after consulting with his colleague Phillips of the Baptist Missionary Society, to Kinshasa, where he introduced the petition for Papasimo Kimbangu's pardon to the Deputy General Governor Dessa. Execution for the death sentence was scheduled for that very day. So while all of this was happening, people rejoicing, everything was going insane, everything was going crazy, and at a very fast level. The petition had no legal value as Jennings was not part of the trial. Also, everyone was shocked because Mr. Jennings, just a few weeks before, he participated in the meetings that was held against Papasimo Kimbangu when they were plotting for his arrest. Mr. Jennings was there. So people didn't understand, like, why all the change of heart? Why all of a sudden, like, what happened? On October 4th, 1921, while preparations were well underway for the execution of Papasimo Kimbangu, a telegram from the Attorney General of the Union ordered documents to the Prosecutor General in Boma, the highest authority judicial and also political of the Belgian Congo. By introducing the petition for pardon for Papasimo Kimbangu, Mr. Duprice attracted wrath from the anti-Kimbangis. So many people were upset and angry at Mr. Duprice. People were so angry that they started sending letters to the governor not to respond to the pardon petition that Mr. Duprice filed. So as everything was taking place, and Papasimo Kimbangu's execution still being delayed because people were waiting for the answers, like the letters went in from authorities to higher authorities, like this person would send it to this authority and the next person would send it to the higher authority. So people were waiting as the European people were all waiting, anxiously waiting to hear what the king's ruling was, because the king had the last ruling, right? So they were all waiting. And because Papasimo Kimbangu had so much influence, his teachings and preachings opened the mind of the natives, and his religious teachings opening the minds of the natives. Papasimo Kimbangu was even being called God's envoy. So all of this really triggered a lot of anxiety to the white colonizers. And because his followers had such great faith in his miracles and also biblical traditions, they now started having meetings, like talking amongst each other. And they were like, if Papasimo Kimbangu gets sentenced to death, there could be imposters and credulous disciples who could announce everywhere the resurrection of the black god. So they were thinking these things. They were like, but if we sentence him to death, there could come people in the future that would claim the resurrection of the black god. And then they were like, whoa, hold up. Said, nothing would stop Kimbangu's influence in the region from spreading and over the entire colony. So they were like, we cannot take this chance. Let us not take this chance. So they decided to send Papasimo Kimbangu with a good escort to the Upper Congo, and there submitting to the system of common law prisoners. So the announcement of the commutation of the death sentence to life imprisonment felt like a complete bomb. The news was taken very badly by the media. The media made no secret of its disappointment. However, the colonial authorities on their part were more concerned about the steps of how to liquidate the Kimbangis religion. So all their thoughts was their concern was more about how they were going to get rid of this Kimbangis religion, this Kimbangis movement that Papasimo Kimbangu began. How were they going to remove this from the natives, from the Congo people? That was their main concern. It It was now clear that Papa Simo Kimbangu and his disciples and followers would be transferred to relegation. They were going to be sent outside the Middle Congo district, outside of their home region. So this was the plan. They were like, they're going to take Papa Simo Kimbangu and take all his apostles and his followers outside their home region to scatter them all over, because they wanted to get rid of the Kimbangis religion. That was their main concern. So they were like, you know what? We are not going to sentence Kimbangu to death, but let us sentence him to life imprisonment. Because if we sentence him to death, it would bring more value to him. Like, it would bring value to Papa Simo Kimbangu. So they were like, let us rather not take it too seriously. Because if we take it seriously, this and this and this would stay in the minds of the natives. So after this decision was made, a lot of things went down, okay? So they were in preparations to send Papa Simo Kimbangu and everyone to relegation. And Papa Simo Kimbangu's son, Papa Kisolo Lukelo, he was the first person to be sent to relegation. They took him first. He was the first person who left. And then Papa Simo Kimbangu's wife and other children, Papa Delungane and Papa Dengenda, they were kept in detention in Kamba. So they kept them detained in Kamba. They were not allowed to leave Kamba. They suffered greatly. We're gonna touch up on this. Like, we're gonna tell the story, but we're gonna do it step by step or video by video, because like I said, there's so much that happened in the history of Kimbangis that is so important, and I'm really trying my best to include every important event that happened. So we are going to continue. We will definitely continue. Thank you for tuning in and for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe.